All right, you've got the Aired Out podcast. We're live from the ASB Financial Studios and Fly on the Wall Productions, Main Street, Barrie, Vermont. Always live, never edited. And with me right now on this beautiful Tuesday morning, 11:04, is Chris Winters, our Deputy Secretary of State. An absolute pleasure to have you in here.
JD, thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be here.
Listen, wintersforvermont.com is the website that I was looking at a little bit yesterday. You are, as I said to you when you stepped in here this morning, you are one busy man. My God.
A little bit busy right now. I have my full-time job as Deputy Secretary, and now I'm running for the top job.
Primaries right on the horizon.
August 9th. Tuesday, August 9th. The first ballots will be going out in a couple of weeks if you want to vote by mail.
Yeah, what is that? I think you were telling me when you stepped in around June 25th.
June 25th, you got it.
Is that becoming more and more the popular way to vote?
I think so. I think we saw in 2020 that people really liked voting by mail. Yeah. So we came back the next year and passed a law that said you'll always be mailed a ballot for the November general election.
Yeah.
Just a reminder that for the primary, you have to request one. It's not going to automatically go to you. So if you want to vote by mail in August, call your town clerk, go online to our website, and order one today.
You have been instrumental with passing some of this groundbreaking legislation. Not easy, though. Has not been easy to do that.
Not easy at all. I'm the legislative lead for the office, so the Secretary of State kind of sets the vision, and then he sets me loose to go make it happen.
So Election Day registration, automatic voter registration, vote by mail. What's some of the kickback that you've had from Vermonters on this?
Well, we're seen as nation leading on this stuff. Other states don't have this. We're the gold standard with Election Day, same day registration,
right?
Automatic voter registration at the DMV.
I think I see in my notes top 3, right?
Access top. We're number 1 right now. Yes.
No kidding.
Number 1 in 2016. We did slide down to number 3 in 2018. The new ratings came out. I need to update my website.
Yeah.
The new ratings came out, and for 2020, we were number 1 in elections again. That's a rating by the MIT Election Performance Index. They use the same data for every single state, and Vermont comes out on top.
The EPI ratings. Wow.
Election Performance Index.
That's really cool.
We're really proud of that. We've worked hard to get there.
What a feather in the cap for you. I mean, that's tremendous.
Yeah, credit goes to the team, to the elections team we have, Secretary Condos, all the town clerks that help make this happen and make this possible. The town clerks are really amazing partners in this, and to Vermont voters who've embraced it and showed up and showed great participation in the last couple of elections.
So since 2015, you've been with Jim Condos.
As deputy secretary.
As deputy.
Yeah.
And you want to take the white out and get rid of deputy.
Right. I'm ready to go for the top job. I think that's one of my greatest selling points is that I'll be ready to lead on day one. We need some continuity and stability in an office that's a really complicated office, and I'll be ready to go.
Experience. You've got a few years under the belt.
I've been there a little while. I actually started out here in Barrie as a lawyer. I hung a shingle just down the road from here.
That's right.
And tried to do a little bit of real estate and family law and criminal law. And then Secretary of State Jim Milne,
yes,
Barrie native,
Republican
at the time, was looking for an attorney. And he asked some of his buddies around here, you know of any good attorneys? And my name came up. And I had a child on the way, so I jumped at a state job with good benefits.
Yes.
And I've been there ever since, 25 years later now.
And you went to school in a few different places, some big cities, Boston and L.A.
I did. When I was in high school, I thought, I got to get out of Vermont, right? See the world. Went to Boston, went to Las Vegas, got an undergrad degree, kept going west, went to San Diego for law school. And as I like to say, I hit the ocean and turned around and came back because
you did.
I missed Vermont after those several years away.
Well, the Pacific's a little salty.
Yes, it is. The surfing was good.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Nothing like Vermont.
So you, how many years in school? Quite a few then.
4 or 5 years for undergrad. I took a little break in there, and then a couple more for law school. So I got my law degree, and then came back home to raise a family.
My goodness. And I'm looking at all of the extracurricular activities that you're involved with. And this is tremendous. You love to shoot a camera. You're a big hiker. You love camping and running marathons. What's that all about?
I like a good challenge. I like to be outdoors. My wife is the executive director of Vermont Parks Forever, the foundation that supports the state parks. So we're big fans of the state parks and spend a lot of time there.
Wow. We've talked about that before on the air.
No, it's great. I love Vermont for all the outdoor activities that it offers. I take nature photography photos and have a pretty good time with that.
Yes.
And then the marathons. That's just I see it as much of a mental challenge as it is a physical challenge, and I really enjoy that. And so I've run a marathon just about every year for the last 15 years.
Now, what's a marathon? What is it? Obviously, I don't know. 12 miles? 25 miles?
26.
26.2. 26.2.
That point two, you've got to pay attention to it at the end. It's
I bet. I've had some friends who are like ultra marathon runners.
Oh, yeah.
They do this. Ridiculous.
That's next level crazy.
What is it? Like 100 miles, 100?
Oh yeah.
Across the desert?
I would never do that. 26.2 is enough.
That's good.
Yeah. After the first 20, your body is screaming at you to stop, and that's when the mind game starts.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you run Burlington?
I did.
You did?
I did. I did it this year, even though I really didn't get to train because
Yeah.
I'm campaigning all the time when
Right.
I'm not working. So no run over 15 miles this year, so it was uncharted territory.
When you're not working. Wow.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Did you see the big world cow?
I didn't see the big world cow.
Oh,
no.
the big inflatable cow?
No, I missed it.
Yeah.
Did not see it.
It was right there on the course at the big left, but you were just following everyone else.
That's right, and probably I was delirious at that
Yeah,
point.
I'm sure. Is this the biggest? Is this the most challenging marathon that you're running right now?
Yeah, the elections.
Mm-hmm.
We like to say that elections and cybersecurity are a race without a finish line. Like, it never stops. It used to be that Secretary of State offices were kind of sleepy little offices.
Mm-hmm.
You run an election every once in a while, then you have a lot of quiet downtime, then you run another election. Well, now it's constant. It's constant. Whether you're worried about cybersecurity, you're worried about misinformation and disinformation, the integrity of elections. 2020 seems to never end.
Yeah.
It is a marathon.
Yeah.
And add a campaign on top of that. And that's another kind of marathon where I, working weekends and nights all the time.
Yeah, unbelievable. With two small boys, right?
2 small boys at home. Yep, I have 4 children total, and the 2 boys they're not so small anymore. They're graduating 8th grade and 6th grade this week.
Oh, what a handful.
Yeah.
Wow. And then 2 other boys that are out west, right?
I have an oldest son who's in Brooklyn, making his way in the world after graduating from UVM, and a daughter who's out in San Diego.
Okay. Wow. Hot out there, and you can relate.
I've been there. Yeah,
Yes.
She's living in the neighborhood where I lived when I
my
was
God.
in law school, so it's kind of funny.
What does the Secretary of State's office? What do they do here in Vermont?
Yeah, as I go around and campaign, I find that most people don't know what we do, and it's a lot. It's not just elections; it's so much more than just elections. So everyone thinks about elections, and of course, that's probably one of the most important things we do. But beyond that, we have 3 other divisions. Shall I name them?
Please.
I
love to learn this stuff. This is fascinating.
Here's a big one: the Office of Professional Regulation.
Oh, yes.
That's professional licensing. Everything
Yes.
from your accountant to your tattooist.
Yep.
These are all folks that are regulated by our office. It's 50 different professions and 80,000 licensees, and we make sure they have the qualifications so that they're safe to do what they're doing.
Right.
And if they mess up in some way, we have a team of investigators and prosecutors to look into that and maybe, issue a reprimand, some education, a suspension, and even a revocation of their license if they do something bad enough to warrant that.
And you've seen a little bit of this over the years.
I've seen it. That's where I started out as a staff attorney for several years, and then I was the director of that division for almost 10. And that's the largest division of the Secretary of State's office.
So if someone has a concern, what have you, they pick up the, and we're going to be talking about 211 here,
Yeah.
but they pick up the phone and they call the Office of Professional Regulation.
That's right. We have a whole complaint process. So, a nurse, a pharmacist, a dentist, lots of healthcare professionals, real estate, land surveying, you go on and on and on, all of the things that we regulate. If you run into trouble with one of those licensees, you can file a complaint and we will investigate it.
My goodness. And you've got to have a staff, a team that's coming to work every day ready.
We do.
Ooh.
That's about 35 people in that division. So people on the licensing side and people on the enforcement side. We have people who are experts in case management, pharmacy, nursing, and then we have all these boards that we manage. So we get that expertise from, say the nursing profession has a nursing board that's made up of APRNs, RNs, LPNs, LNAs, that we can tap into that knowledge.
Who really get it.
Who really get it. We go into the legislature every year to get laws to protect the public and adjust those every single year. So it's big. It's a big operation.
That's just one division.
That's one division.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
What's number two?
Number two, corporations division.
Oh,
so
yes.
anybody who registers a business in the state of Vermont has to come through our doors, our virtual doors now, to register their business. So this is important so that Vermonters know who's in the state doing business. Again, if there's a problem with that corporation, you need to know how to serve them with a lawsuit.
Sure.
The tax department needs to know that folks are in the state for their purposes. So business registration is a huge thing that we do. We do 100,000 online transactions every year. We do it with a division of 5 people. And we bring in, with those fees, we bring in a lot of revenue for the state, too, that goes to the general fund.
Wow. What else?
Number 3 on that list, or 4 if you're counting elections, is the State Archives and Records Administration. So most people wouldn't know that we have a big old warehouse off the interstate in Middlesex by the police barracks down there that's full of millions and millions of cubic feet of records. We have 2 forklifts. We have a climate-controlled vault for our most precious documents, so the historical archives, copies of the Constitution, things like that, are there in the archives in a vault in Middlesex. It's a huge division. They issue vital records. We have a research and reference room that lots of people use for either genealogy or doing research projects on very important Vermont history. So the State Archives and Records Administration also helps all state agencies manage their records. So what needs to be kept, what can be destroyed. Again, really important to accountability in government that state agencies don't just willy-nilly throw away their records, right? You might have to look back and see what they were doing or what they were actually up to.
See, I'm sure Sherilyn listening this morning is saying that I ought to work there because I'm a paper guy. I've got to have... I just have to have the paper.
Yeah, it's going more and more digital. We also have terabytes and terabytes of information in the digital archives. I know. Digital.
Crazy. I gotta have the paper. I gotta see it. I gotta touch it, smell it. It's got to be in my hand.
Yeah, we have a lot of paper there.
Wow, that is tremendous. So a staff of approximately 80-ish?
80, right around 80. Yeah, does all that, and there's a lot more.
So what happened? What was running through Chris Winter's mind when COVID hit in March?
Yeah.
And you were saying what in your head?
How the heck are we going to pull off an election? So right around that time, I remember seeing Wisconsin and people standing in line covered in garbage bags and homemade masks, and there was no PPE. People didn't really know how COVID worked. They were fearing for their lives, but they were forced to stand in line and go in person to the polling place because it had just hit, and Wisconsin didn't move quickly enough to allow them to do vote by mail. So we were faced with that. We were like, what are we going to do? 2016 is going to be a big election. 2020 is going to be a big election.
Yeah.
A lot on the line. A lot of people are going to turn out to vote. How can we get ready? How can we make sure everybody still has that constitutional right to vote?
So right out of the chute, you were just going, oh, man.
In March, we're like,
buckle up.
What are we going to do? We have 6 months. We think it should be vote by mail so that no one has to choose between their health or that right to vote.
Yeah.
So
Many did.
Many did.
Many did.
Many did. In Wisconsin, that's what they had to do. Decide, am I going to go to the polls or am I going to stay home and be safe?
Yeah.
And whether that was justified or not,
Right.
that they were going to catch COVID at the polls,
Sure.
didn't matter. It made a difference to them. They decided to stay home because of it, and we didn't want that. So we knew we had to go to vote by mail. We knew we had to start pushing it. We knew that it takes years in other states to put up a vote by mail system to build that. And we knew it was a huge challenge in front of us in March of 2020.
Did the beard get a little grayer during this short period
you
of
should
time?
say. There's some pictures of me from 2019. No gray. No gray at all. My kids might have had something to do with this, too.
So quickly, here you've got 80 staff members that are all asking you the same question.
Right.
What do we do now? What are we doing? And you had to make a...
Yeah, we had to flip a switch in mid-March. I think maybe March 20th or something like that. And the governor said, if you can, you should be sending everybody home, work from home. So we had to transition an 80-person office to remote work and still keep up all those services I was just talking about.
Yeah, you can't drop the ball.
Business registration can't stop. Professional regulation can't stop. The election isn't going to stop. But luckily, we had transformed a lot of the office to online.
Yeah.
So all of our licensing is done online. All of our business registration can be done online. Most of our election work could be done online. It was the paper in the state archives where we had to keep people in the office working on that.
Oh.
But everything else we could say, here's a laptop. Get used to being on Teams video conferences constantly.
Don't care if you're wearing your PJs.
That's right. Just be dressed from the waist
job.
up, right? Right.
Yes.
And we flipped the switch, and they were able to go home and carry on business as usual. We didn't drop the ball at all. The services kept on going, and people were really productive at home too. Kudos to them for being so dedicated to their work. They care enough about their work. They care enough about the people they serve that they didn't want to see anyone go without those services. And we did a great job.
And where are we now? How has this? Have we settled in now? Have we got the roots planted? Is this how it's going to be now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We've been struggling with that for the last year or so. Like, we need to have some contact with each other in person still. We need to have some time in the office to serve people who want to walk through the doors and get service. So right now we've settled on a hybrid model. Kind of trying to take the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
People love the work-life balance.
Sure.
And some people are more productive when they're
Yes.
not in an office setting.
Yes.
And we saw that in the numbers. We track the work. We can see what's getting done online. And so we're in a mixed model right now where people are generally working remotely 2 days a week and in the office 3 days a week.
Yeah. I was just reading over the weekend how in parts of Europe, especially England, they're kind of testing the notion of the 4-day work week.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? You got any opinions on that? Productivity.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. If you can be sitting in your chair for 8 hours a day in the office and not get anything done.
Depends on the profession.
Depends on the profession. Depends on the person. So it's very individual. I think some people don't need motivation. They're very self-motivated. Others might need to have a more watchful eye. We have to be responsible about that.
Right.
But I think that work-life balance is really important. People are happier. People are more productive. A lot of people in our office didn't miss the kind of office gossip or stuff that goes on in a workspace with a whole bunch of people. Distractions.
Yeah.
And appreciate being able to go for a walk in their garden at lunchtime.
Right.
It can ground you. It can make you a more happy, satisfied, productive employee. So we're testing it all out.
Or take 30 seconds and throw the wet laundry into the dryer.
Yep, that's exactly right. Start getting dinner ready, or have your dog at your feet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Huge. Let's talk about your roots, your beginning here.
Sure.
And I know we touched on that a little bit, but we go back to you were born right up the road in Berlin.
That's right. Where I live now.
Where you live now. Williamstown.
Grew up in Williamstown.
Cabot.
Lived about 10 years in Cabot. And now in Berlin.
how does your wife deal? How does Sarah deal with all this and everything that you're doing? I mean, she's got her own
Yeah.
her own
She's a
stuff.
She does. She's a very hard worker and is having to work extra hard as well. I'm really fortunate to have a good support system. My family, Sarah especially, who's doing all the running around with the kids, and for the last couple of months, she's had to do everything. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, I bet.
I've got a good campaign team that's really supporting me now too. Very excited for the people who are excited for my campaign and have jumped on board. So that helps. And I just keep thinking, okay, couple more months, like running a marathon. Okay,
Right.
Just get through the next mile.
Sure.
Get through the next mile. It'll be over, and it'll feel great when it is over.
You've done several years on the school board, including as chair,
I did in Berlin, yeah.
through a major renovation project and
Yep.
district merger. What was that all like?
Yeah, that was really rewarding work. It's kind of a thankless job, as anyone who's has been on a school board knows. It's really hard work. It's hard to keep people happy. It's hard to respond to all of the feedback that you get and the ideas that you get. But you just have to do your best. In Berlin, we really needed a school renovation. It was over 30 years old. There was asbestos in the building. The heating wasn't efficient. The lighting was bad. Things were falling apart. And so we needed to pass a bond. And I'm really proud of the work that we did on that to engage the community, let them know why it was really important for us to upgrade this school. And get a $3 million bond passed was hard to do, but we did it, and I'm really, really proud of that.
Yeah, almost impossible to do something like this and not make enemies. Impossible.
Right. Yeah, no, you're not going to make everyone happy, but if you can just be open about the process, be very transparent, very honest. Provide lots of opportunities for feedback and public input. Do your best to reach out to everyone. At the end of the day, people understood the school was the heart of the community, and that our kids are our most precious resource, and they needed a good learning environment. And we're really glad that we did. We had an upgraded air system. The energy efficiency through that process was really great. So when it came to COVID and all the air filtering and things like that, they had a great school to work with. It wasn't stale air in there. And I think people were pretty happy with how it came out, and have been, I think, grateful that we did do it when we did it. And then the school merger came along too,
Sure.
So that threw a wrench into everything.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Well, what's a typical day like for you these days, running this campaign? I mean, gosh, August 9th is not far.
Yeah.
2 months away. Not even.
Yep. So I'm working about 3 days a week now and taking 2 days of vacation time to campaign. So I have to keep that line of separation. I don't do any campaigning on work time. I have separate cell phones, separate laptops, all that stuff. So if I need to do campaign work, I'll do it at lunchtime, I'll do it on break, and I have to do it in the evenings. And then I take a couple of days a week to go around the state to make sure I'm getting into other counties and being seen and listening to voters in other parts of the state. And then weekends, and I'm up every night until 11, 12 o'clock. Doing emails and doing work on the campaign. So it's been nonstop for the last 3 or 4 months.
Coffee drinker?
A lot, way too much. Do you have any coffee? If I nod off here,
We'll get you a
don't
cup
get
right
mad at
now.
me.
We'll get you a cup right now if you want it. You're referred to as the Secretary Office's Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of tools in the pocket.
Yeah, I tend to say yes to everything, which maybe is a fault. But there's a lot of stuff that needs to get done in it. It's an 80-person office, but we have so many responsibilities that it's always all hands on deck all the time.
How can you be responsible HR and IT at the same time?
Oh yeah, yep. And I'm in charge of it. I'm not in it every single day. I supervise the people who are in charge of it. But yeah, it's a lot of HR. It's a lot of IT decisions. It's communications. It's legislative agenda. I'm the records officer for the agency. I oversee the 4 divisions. But I've been there for 25 years, and I know the office inside and out. I've done a lot of the work, so it's not as much No, it is a lot, but it's not as much as it seems for me, because I've been at it so long. I think I'm pretty efficient at overseeing all this stuff.
And you've done this all while coaching Little League, which is incredible.
That was the greatest challenge of my lifetime.
But what a joy, though. I mean, I'm sure it was. Stop it now.
In Berlin, the planes are always flying over for the airport, so the kids are always looking up at the sky instead of...
and missing the... Yeah, I understand. My little girl plays, and same deal. Looking at the clouds and playing with the sand.
Yeah.
But you have to unplug. You have to unplug.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's a good way to do it. It was when my kids were on the team and no one else would step up, I did. And that's, kind of a pattern. Like if something needs to get done, you get it done. And I've always wanted to give back to the community, whether that's as a school board member or a baseball coach or on the solid waste management district when I was in Williamstown or now as deputy secretary. Just serving the public is something I love to do.
You, as the IT guy, you started up the Twitter and Facebook page to reach as many Vermonters as you could.
I don't know if I regret that now, maybe a little bit. Being on social media can be hard, but I think we have to be out there. We have to have a presence. We have to reach out to people where they are.
Yeah.
So we started up those accounts and have a pretty good presence out there and a decent following where we can reach out to people.
What's the page?
Oh, let's see. For the Secretary of State's office?
Yeah.
Oh, man, you would ask. I think for Twitter, it's at Vermont SOS, Vermont spelled out.
Yeah.
And then I'm not sure for Facebook.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries. There's a lot here. There's a lot that's going on.
Yeah.
Reading about you, it says you're a passionate proponent of smart, focused government and accountability through transparency, proud to work every day with Secretary Condos to solve problems for Vermonters. One of the big words there that we're seeing and hearing more than anything else these days, I think, is transparency.
Yeah.
Vermonters don't like to be fooled. We want the ultimate transparency. We want to know what's going on.
That's right. I think transparency today is so key to rebuilding trust in government. I think it's at an all-time low, especially the federal government, but that applies to the state government too. So, as much as we can be really open about what we're doing, nothing to hide here. We're not doing things behind closed doors. This is your government, and I like to remind people of that. This is your government. When I create a public document, it's your document. I don't get to do what I want with it. I can't just hide it. I can't just throw it away. That document is a public document that belongs to the people. And it needs to be preserved and it needs to be given up if someone asks for it, unless there's a really good reason not to. And there's some exemptions in law for that to protect privacy. But for the most part, it's transparency is about accountability. It's working like you've got 600,000 plus Vermonters looking over your shoulder. Makes for a better government. Open government is good government.
Wow. Open government is good government. I think many Vermonters appreciate those words.
Yeah, I think so. Transparency is kind of a buzzword. You hear a lot of people use it.
Yeah, sure.
But it is meaningful if you apply it in the right way. So public records, open meetings are really important to the public's right to know. It's right in the Constitution. The public has a right to know.
Is that what you say often to your constituents?
Yeah, I say it all the time. I think that's the way to rebuild trust in government. Like we need people to know what we're up to so that we get the proper feedback, so that we're accountable to them, so that we use taxpayer dollars wisely.
25 years of service to Vermont in the Secretary of State's office, 7 as Deputy Secretary of State, and 10 as the Director of the Office of Professional Regulation, and 8 as a staff attorney. That's quite a resume right there. With experience like this, 25 years, what are you saying to how are you getting along with your running mates? What are you saying to them?
Yeah, I'm saying that they're really good people. They're people I've worked with. They're people I would consider a friend. But my experience is what I focus on. We're all about the same age, all three of us in this race. But we all have really different experience we bring to the table, and I think mine is very specific, very broad-reaching. This office is a really complicated office. So we need someone with experience. We need someone who is a proven leader with a track record.
Yeah.
I've done the job. I've
Through a
done the job
pandemic.
under tough circumstances.
Understatement.
Talk about fire-tested and battle-ready and ready to go. That's my pitch, is that I'll be able to hit the ground running and be ready to lead on day one. And we don't have time for on-the-job training for what's going on in the Secretary of State's office right now.
Wow. Well said.
Thanks.
Media. Who's got you? Who's following your lead? Who's watching your trail?
There's not a lot of coverage on this race, it seems. There's a lot going on. Top of the ballot, right? Sure. Lots of races. It's hard for people to focus on all of these things that are going on. And it's summertime, and we've had a rotten winter, and we're coming out of it, and COVID and everything else. People are exhausted. So we're trying to get a little bit of attention, which is why I'm really grateful to be on your show today, to get the word out about why the Secretary of State's office really matters. There's so many things we do that affect your life every single day. You ought to be paying attention to the Secretary of State race. Yeah,
absolutely. Specifically, what are some of the key concerns that Vermonters on the street, folks that you either meet face to face or chat with, either by phone or face to face?
Yep.
Or maybe even things that you have overheard or seen on social media or overheard in a restaurant. Mm-hmm. What do you think the biggest concerns are right now? Every state in America has is being affected by staffing shortages.
Yeah.
Supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the perfect storm right now.
Yeah.
But what's the big thing in Vermont that you're hearing?
I hear about election integrity quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
In my among my own friend circle, in my own family, people questioning because they're constantly hearing online or from certain news sources like maybe vote by mail isn't safe.
Yeah.
Maybe something something was funny about the 2020 election. I keep hearing it, right? I mean, even the former president is saying it, and all these leaders in Congress are saying it. Maybe there's something to it.
It's churning.
It's churning, and it's not going away, and it undermines our faith and trust in our election system, which we've always trusted it. It's our friends and our neighbors who are on those BCAs. It's our town clerk who we know is running those elections.
Yeah.
So it's a little counterintuitive, but those questions about election integrity are a real threat to democracy and to Vermont. And I'll go so far as to let you know that with that constant misinformation that's out there, that those YouTube rabbit holes you can go down,
sure.
We've actually gotten death threats at our office to our elections division. It's gone that far. People actually believe something was stolen from them, and they're so worked up about it that they're willing to pick up the phone and threaten us about it just for doing our jobs. So that's what I think a lot of Vermonters are worried about, and what we should be worried about is bringing back that integrity of elections, being transparent about how we do elections, rebuilding faith and trust in our elected officials and in government. That's why we need to elect good people who are problem solvers, not politicians, willing to do the job and do it well, and prove to Vermonters that there is a place for government, a reasonable government, a right-sized government to help us solve our common problems.
Yeah. We're so red and blue, left and right,
yep.
North Pole, South
Absolutely.
Pole.
Yeah, no, we need a government that works for everyone. We need elections that work for everyone. I've got plenty of Republicans and independents and Democrats in my family. I want them all to vote. I want them all to have an equal say. I want them to find our services easy to use. When someone calls me with a problem, I'm not asking if they're a Republican or a Democrat. I'm trying to help them solve their problem.
Wow, I love that. Conservative, liberal. I mean, the list goes on. Yep. The list goes on. Yep. We just we have to stop bickering, and we have to give a little bit, but also step back and trust.
Absolutely.
Or take an inch step forward to learn to trust our government. If you're a lot of us are walking around with conspiracy theories
and that trust has to be earned. I'm not saying just blindly trust. And I think when we talk about partisanship, one of the things that I like to talk about when I talk about defending democracy, restoring faith in elections, is civics. Civics education has kind of disappeared from our schools. There's a role for the Secretary of State's office to provide some resources around civic participation and voting.
Yeah.
Civil discourse, like you said, we got to stop making the other side the enemy.
That's it.
We get into our camps and we demonize who's on the other side, and we're willing to shout at each other over the internet when we might not be willing to shout at each other in person.
Easy to do.
And then media literacy is the other piece of this. Like, how do you sort through the information superhighway and all the stuff, the fire hose of information that's coming at you, to know what to trust out there?
What about 211? We're kind of leading up to that here. What is Raylene is just huge proponent.
Yeah, I'm not super up on 211, but I think it's a really great resource for you to know what services are out there. 211, you know, there's a lot that your government does that you're paying for that you should know that you can take advantage of. So use 211.
And there's staff members on the other end of that line who, if they don't know the answer, they can at least
they'll get you there.
At least get you on the right road.
Yep.
To finding the answer.
That's right. It's a information clearinghouse that I wish more folks would take advantage of.
Back to elections.
Sure.
It just seems like, listen, we have an aging population. We all know that here in Vermont. Vermonters love to lick that finger and drop that ballot right in the box. They like to see that.
Sure.
They want to see their own hand drop that ballot in the box.
And you can still do that.
Will we always be able to do that?
Yes. I think we should always have paper ballots.
Is that a resounding yes?
That's a resounding yes. Paper ballots are the gold standard. Paper ballots are what we should always have. In case you ever have a problem, you can go back and count the actual paper. That's your receipt. And even with vote by mail, when you're delivered a ballot, you still have the choice of putting it back in the mail, filling it out and putting it in the mail, bringing it down to your clerk's office and dropping it in a drop box, voting early in your clerk's office, or show up on election day. Bring that ballot with you, fill it out right there, put it in right through the tabulator or in the ballot box because you want to make sure it's there. It's all methods are safe and secure, but some people love that experience. I do, of going there on election day, getting the I voted sticker, and seeing it go through that tabulator with your own two hands.
We hear more and more the word recounting. I mean, even our own presidency of America.
Yeah. When you have paper ballots, you can do that recount and be sure of the result. If you didn't have a paper ballot, say like in Georgia, where they just switched to paper ballots, they did 2 recounts in Georgia and came up with basically the same results. So you can trust the outcome of that election. If they didn't have paper ballots, I don't know what would have happened. Interesting. Yeah.
Vermont, are we up with the times? Do we have the right technology to do this voting, this tabulation?
Yes. Our tabulators were getting old. They had a lot of miles on them, although because we have such small towns, they weren't worn out like some other states get worn out pretty quickly with a ton of voters. But we just replaced the tabulator machines with a new version, updated technology. They're going to run smoother. They're going to run faster.
Statewide.
Yep. The Secretary.
There's been a lot of chat about Barry, as you know.
That's right. And that was part of the problem was the aging tabulators were jamming. And so that leads to questions like, what was going on with that jam? Oh, they were old. And so now we have new ones that should jam a heck of a lot less. But even then, you have the paper ballots, you have the poll watchers, you have the election officials conducting these elections. There's a lot of oversight that goes into any election.
What's the price tag on these new tabulators?
Oh, I think they're somewhere around $6,000 each. They're pretty complicated machines. They're not connected to the internet in any way, I should say that.
Yeah.
And we, as the Secretary of State's office, get to choose which kind of machine and distribute it to all of the towns. We had a group of clerks, including our wonderful Barry City clerk here, your wonderful Barry City clerk, as part of that panel that chose the next tabulators. And we actually got a federal grant, got some federal grant money to pay for that. Yeah. So it's covered by federal cybersecurity and election upgrade grants because federally...
Part of ARPA?
Not ARPA. It's a little bit. It's something different, but it's about upgrading our election infrastructure in our country to make sure elections are so important. You want to make sure that those elections are working well.
If I were to sit down and have a cup of coffee right now with Jim Condos and say, "What do you think of Chris Winters?" What would he say?
I think he would say Chris has been his trusted deputy and part of his leadership team for these last 12 years, 7 as deputy. And what I have heard him say is that Chris has the most experience and is best qualified to take over as Secretary of State. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of the work that I've done with Jim, consider him a mentor and a friend, and proud of what we've been able to accomplish together. What
would be some of the first things if you won, if you became our next Secretary of State?
Need to keep things on the right track for sure. We have 100 irons in the fire already. We're trying to get vote by mail nailed down like really right this time around. We did a great job in 2020, but it was building the airplane as we flew it.
Sure.
So now we're putting better process, better contracts, better things in place to make sure that it's really working well. So we're focused on that right now. We have some upgrades for our business portal, which is registering your business and being able to go to many other areas of state government to get what you need from them. So other licenses, other permits, a one-stop shop is something we're working on. So that's something I'd be focusing on. The civics, civil discourse, and media literacy piece is something I'd like to tackle right away too. Hasn't exactly been a focus for Jim. He's been more focused on customer service and cybersecurity and had a lot of other great things going on.
Yeah.
I think it's time to bring back that civics piece of what we do.
Are these things that you would love to say to our governor if you had a chance to sit and have a meal with him right now?
Sure. Yeah. We've worked really well with the administration. They've been very interested in our work in professional regulation to reduce barriers and use it as a workforce development tool. So make it easy for people to get a license while still protecting the public. Our Biz Portal initiatives, he's a big supporter on, and he's come around on vote by mail and is a real proponent of vote by mail and the way that increases participation for everybody.
Yeah, seems it.
Yeah.
April Fool's jokes. Do you have one lined up for this April?
I don't. I always think of them last minute, but
you're the purveyor of epic April Fool's.
I am known
pranks.
for that around the office.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the best one you've done?
One that sticks out in the memory.
The one that sticks out. So, I promoted a free chicken with every vote. That we were going to do an election promotion, that if you turned up on election day, you could get a free chicken. That was one of the good ones that people kind of fell for. I don't know if you remember when Vermont Health Connect was happening, and they had all these callers trying to answer people's questions and get them signed up. I let the rest of the Secretary of State's office know that they had to sign up and be a phone banker for Vermont Health Connect. And I actually got some pretty angry responses to that one, including from the secretary himself, who said, "Why didn't I know about this?" So then I had to let Jim in on the April Fool's jokes from then on.
Did he play well? Did he act well when he got in on it?
He did.
Wow,
he did.
You seem like a great guy. Obviously, you thoroughly know what you're doing, and you seem more than ready to take the wheel as our Secretary of State. Good luck to you, Chris Winters. Winters4Vermont.com.
Thank you, JD.
Which is, we're going to link that up as well.
Really enjoyed it.
Appreciate you very much. August 9th. Don't forget to vote. Ballots out June 25th.
June 25th.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, JD.
We appreciate it so much.